shoot, Nate, I made a mistake. I got so excited I forgot to take the overlay off. And welcome to another very special episode of the Breakdown X's and O's. And we're not talking hugs and kisses, ladies and gentlemen, because today we have a very special episode for you. And if you couldn't see by the thumbnail, we're going to get a little superhero-y with the episode. So stay tuned for that because we'll get into the rant segment and we'll go for that. But let me give him a proper introduction. The man to my right is the man, the myth, the legend, the 5-year NFL vet. I like to call him Nate Nessie, but you can call him Nate Ness. He's the man that y'all all came to see. So, I'll be asking him a couple things, especially in that second segment. He's got a lot to talk about today. So he wanted to talk about a couple things, so he's gonna give his little spiel. So stay tuned for that. And Nate, I need to talk about something because I was watching it last night while I was working, and I know this is strictly a football show, but I just want to talk about it before we start. Why was that NBA Finals so bad? Did you watch it?
The Boston Celtics playing.
Why was it? It was so terrible. Didn't even feel like a finals. It just felt like a first round playoff series.
Boston Celtics that was playing. That's why. But I do. I gotta tip my hat and give credit where credit is due. I am a Laker fan, but Boston Celtics. Congratulations to their fans and their fan base. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Just again that whole team. Derek White. Al Horford finally getting him a championship ring. Their coach, who's done a phenomenal job. That team and that organization. So you got to tip your hat where, and give credit where credit is due. You don't be you're not a sore loser or quote unquote hater. You give credit where credit is due. And they played. They had a great season. Again, and it feels good for them to get back to the finals and have some redemption and winning it. This go around and you just look at all of the adversity in which dang Dad, you did not have to say that. You look at the adversity that they went through, the storms that they have to weather this year. That's the sign and the mark of a true champion. So I tip my hat to the Boston Celtics, even though I'm a Laker fan and I hate Boston. But yeah.
That team's depth was so crazy. They might have one of the best depth of a championship team we've seen in the past several years.
You know what? To be honest with you, I would say between Boston, the Golden State Warriors, the Spurs have always had really good depth. That Spurs dynasty has always had really good depth, and yeah, that's about it. They've always had great depth. But yeah.
Well, Nate, let's start the show off right because I know you like to do little things. So, what's up, Nate? Tell me how the day's been. Give you a little shout outs. You know how you do.
Oh, well, it's Tuesday. It's Taco Tuesday. Beautiful day. Of course, it's always a blessing when you wake up and open your eyes and experience God's grace and love over your life. I actually it was upper body and lower body day today. I did a double workout.
I can't stand those days.
But of course I got to say hello to my children, Tyler, Nemo, Demi, DQ. I love you, Mom, Dad. I love you. All my siblings, family, nieces, nephews, everybody. Love you guys. And yeah, it's just been a beautiful day. Again, you think about it. Halfway into the year, we're in the month of June already, and it seems like yesterday we had just was saying, doing the countdown, to kick off the year 2024. But just taking every day, not for granted, taking every day with a grain of salt, with appreciation and humility and gratitude, and just trying to be the best that I can be. So let's get right into it, Connor. How you doing today?
You ready? I'm good, Nate. Thanks for asking. So I always tell people when I go up to them. I give them their little straws. I tell them how they're doing, and sometimes, every once in a while, they'll ask me how I'm doing. I tell them I'm good. Thanks for asking. But, I mean, there's nothing super important that's happened to me. I was just working, so it ain't nothing much. But I will say that, I don't have to work a lot like I used to, and I still make real good money. So I'm very thankful for that I'm not working half as much as I used to back at old Chick-fil-A. And I'm making almost double the money, and I'm probably working like 2/3 of the hours. So I'm very thankful for that. But I want to get into it. Like you said, let's get into it. So let me introduce Nate's necessary notes because
Yeah.
this first segment's got me a little excited. Okay, so play that real quick. Okay, so we're gonna have to talk a little bit of maybe contract with young players. I have a video, and I'm gonna pull up big Jayden Daniels guy. We've talked about Jayden Daniels a lot on the show, especially when he was at college, coming out of college, winning the Heisman, possibly winning Offensive Rookie of the Year. We're not sure. We're gonna see what happens. But do you know what college Jayden Daniels went to before he won his Heisman at LSU? It's okay, Nate. I know you're not a college dude, but in the NFL for a reason. Yep. He does know. The reason Nate's doing that is because Nate went to the University of Arizona.
I went to a prestigious institute. I went to an institute where we valued, what our education and I'm not a scum devil.
Yep. Jayden Daniels was at the Sun Devils, Arizona State. I don't know if it's Arizona State University. I think that's probably
ASU.
Yeah. I try to use it like how Mississippi has it set up, University of Mississippi, Mississippi State University. Sometimes it's not right. Sometimes it is. I'm almost certain Auburn is Auburn University and not University of Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it? So
it's Auburn University.
I'm almost certain, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's AU. It's
AU.
not U of A.
UA is Alabama.
Yeah, Alabama. Exactly. So we look at Arizona State, and Jayden Daniels was at Arizona State before he transferred to LSU, became the Heisman we all know and love. And there was actually another player who we talked about last week, I think, that does not know if he's going to play for his team. We talked about the contract negotiations, people missing out on minicamp, and 49ers star receiver Brandon Aiyuk is one of those guys. He's on the phone with Jayden Daniels because when Jayden Daniels was a freshman at Arizona State, Brandon Aiyuk was a senior. And so they had a little connection. So they were on FaceTime the other night. I'm about to play you the video of what they said. Mama, if you're watching, it has a little curse word in it, so I apologize. I couldn't get it out. I tried. It wouldn't let me edit the video and send it to this. So we're going to roll with how we have it. Hopefully I can stop it for the little TikTok thing at the end. But here, I'm going to let you watch it. Tell me what you think.
Bro, look in the cam, bro. Look the cam.
He got me vlogging this shit.
Bro, what?
What happened, bro?
They said they don't want me back. I swear.
Okay, Nate. Now, the context of that video, I mean, I know it's not very long, but the context is he says they don't want me back, talking about the San Francisco 49ers. We've seen that the San Francisco 49ers recently gave Christian McCaffrey a 2-year extension of his deal worth $38 million. He's making $19 million a year per that extension. And now they're not probably going to be able to pay someone like Brandon Aiyuk. We've seen Nick Bosa's making $34 million a year. He was the highest paid non-quarterback before Justin Jefferson signed his deal. And I don't know what's going to happen. Honestly, I think the 49ers want to keep Brandon Aiyuk, but not for the money. If we talk about money-wise, Brandon Aiyuk's on the last year of his rookie deal. He's making a little north of $14 million. Now, to re-sign Brandon Aiyuk would be a pretty penny. Let's look at some numbers from Brandon Aiyuk from this past season. So this past season, he had 1,300 yards on 75 receptions and 7 touchdowns on the year.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of money are we thinking Brandon Aiyuk's going to get? We'll talk about the pros and cons of him staying on the 49ers. Obviously, a con being they're going to have to pay him this money. And then let's talk about some landing spots for Brandon Aiyuk. So,
what's going on? All right, let's go. Okay. Well, number one, you don't really necessarily like. I personally don't like the video and all that stuff, some things is better left be kept off social media because at the end of the day, again, it's a business, but then on top of that, it's like some things are better left unsaid and keeping in house. That's just the professional aspect, and that's the professional courteous way to handle this situation, this contract dispute. Now, again, give me his numbers again.
Okay. So on 75 receptions on the year, he had 1342s, 1,300 yards, and then 7 touchdowns.
Okay, now
his yards per reception is crazy. It's almost 18, which is crazy. That means every time you give Brandon Aiyuk the ball, it's going to be a first down and then some, right? So we got to talk about how important that is for the 49ers, especially having the offense they have with Brock Purdy, this Mr. Relevant rookie, not rookie, but young quarterback. But what's the type of money we're going to have to give Brandon Aiyuk, or the 49ers are going to have to give Brandon Aiyuk if they want to keep him in San Fran?
Okay. I want to go over something real quick.
Okay.
Brandon Aiyuk's first 4 years, he's played 60 out of 62 games. Or excuse me, 60. Yeah, you know what? He's, let me take that back. Hold on. 17. So out of 17 times 4 is 68. He's played 62 games. He's amassed 269 receptions, 3,900 yards, 3,931 yards, 25 touchdowns, receiving wise. Now, I want to compare those with somebody else, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go ahead and look because we're measuring the pay scale off of the latest deal that Justin Jefferson just signed. So I wanted to, I just want to look at something real quick, if that's okay. Justin Jefferson signed a big deal, but I want to go over his first 4 years in the league. Now, you remember 3,931 yards, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Just remember that. That's the first 4 years. Justin Jefferson, who, again, has been a first-team All-Pro. He's been a 2-time second-team All-Pro. He 3-time Pro Bowler, NFL Offensive Player of the Year 2022. 392 receptions, 5,899 yards, 30 receiving touchdowns. Let's look. And that's in his first 4 years.
Which the touchdowns aren't what, make Justin Jefferson Justin Jefferson.
No,
Let's
what
be
makes
honest.
Jefferson is his skill set and the fact that at that time he had Kirk Cousins who was feeding him the ball. We're not going to take anything away from Brock Purdy, but at that time, Brock Purdy was still coming into his own. And the other they had quarterback issues with Jimmy G and Trey Lance and so forth. Now, if we're going to measure up where guys are going to compare themselves to a Justin Jefferson with Brandon Aiyuk, and don't get me wrong, Brandon Aiyuk is a phenomenal talent, even though he went to ASU. Justin Jefferson has been a top 5 premier receiver since the day he came into the league. With his first year going over 1,400 yards, then coming back with 1,600. Then the year after that, 1,809, leading the league and 1,809. And then last year, it was a down year, only playing 10 games, still managed to have 1,074 yards. So he was averaging 100 yards a game in the 10 games that he played, and whatnot. Now, this guy is just a phenomenal talent. Now, Brandon Aiyuk, he had a great year. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. And I want to put him in the same category as, well, no, I can't put him in the same category as the CD Lamb because CD Lamb has produced. He really has produced. He's looking for top quality receiver one money coming off of a career year. But it's not enough to show me that you deserve career, receiver won $30+ million a year contract, because again, you have one great year. Who's to say that, after you get paid, that your production won't drop? And the numbers don't add up to. You can't compare yourself to the top, a top 3 receiver in the league, just because again, you've had a great year. And that's nothing against you or anything, but you had a great year, which you're supposed to, and I'm glad you had a great year. But you haven't had the years that this guy has had. It's kind of tricky because again, he's saying that San Fran doesn't want him. It's a lot of things that we don't know. We're going off of opinions and feelings. What if San Fran is saying you need to show us, And again, he sees all of these receivers getting paid, and again, I'm coming off an all-pro year. I deserve to get my contract. I'm not saying he doesn't. He does. Yet we're going to base that off of 1 year. We need to see more consistency and more production. So, I mean, what teams do I see could possibly use his services and his talents? Well, we got to look at the salary cap first. And we got to look at if teams are willing to give up, because San Fran's going to want at least a first-round draft pick for him. And is anybody going to be willing to give up a first-round draft pick for him?
If we think about if we think about the market being set, and I'm glad you said that, Stephon Diggs, they didn't even give a first-round pick for Stephon Diggs, and they got the star wide receiver and a 6th-round pick with Stephon Diggs for a 2nd-round pick. Brandon Aiyuk is a Stephon Diggs. In my opinion, Brandon Aiyuk is a Stephon Diggs. If we look at the numbers, he is about 2/3 worth of Justin Jefferson stat-wise. So if we look at 2/3 worth of 35 with Justin Jefferson, it's about 23. So I assume roughly teams are going to look at that. They're going to say, okay, well, he's around worth $23 million a year. Now we see that Jayden Daniels was on the phone with Brandon Aiyuk, yada yada, talking about how, rekindling that flame that they had back in college. And the Commanders have a salary cap, I think they have like $45 million in cap space. $46 million in cap space. I see it. $46 million in cap space. Which could be used. Now, you're not going to give $46 million to Brandon Aiyuk, which could be used, half of it, to sign a star wide receiver like Brandon Aiyuk. Now, you still have Terry McLaurin. I think he's touching 30, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm wrong about that assumption, but I think he's touching. Well, he's 28. So, and Brandon Aiyuk's 26. So, I mean, you could rekindle a flame. We see how well people in college can do in the NFL. Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. We can see how well the people that had a connection in college, how well it benefits that team in the NFL. And I think if you put Brandon Aiyuk on the Commanders, it might just do that. Have that college connection like Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow do on their respective teams.
But is Washington going to give up a first-round draft pick? I don't see that happening. Of a player that's coming off of, yes, a career year, but up until then, he has been mediocre to subpar.
I don't see a first-round draft pick having to be made, though. That's my thing. If Stephon Diggs didn't get traded for.
But that's what San Fran's going to command. They're going to want a first-round draft pick for him. Because, again, he's a first-round pick, and he's in his 5th-year option. They're going to want a first-round draft pick for him.
Yeah, I mean, anybody would.
Man,
Just
really?
a first-round pick on him, yeah. Back in 2020.
No. I don't see him being worth a first-round draft pick because up until last year, he was subpar middle-of-the-pack receiver. No disrespect to him, but subpar middle-of-the-pack.
I'd take him on my team if that means anything. I'd take him on my team. I'd take freaking their 3rd wide receiver on my team.
Oh, my God.
I'd take Juwan Jennings. I'd take him. I'd take Debo. I'd take any of their wide receivers, and all of them being upgraded to what the Saints have. Except Chris Olave is pretty good. But
but again, this is going to come down to just that.
Agree.
A first round pick is too much.
I agree.
First round pick is too much, but we're talking realistically. San Francisco they're going to try to get something for him because he's coming off again a career year. He's coming off a career year, and they're going to want some compensation, draft compensation, to give up because he was a nice little piece of their offense to go along with Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Kyle Juszczyk. Again, that's a weapon that Brock Purdy is probably going to lose if that's the case, and they're going to look for something to replace what they're losing. So, but a first round draft pick is what they're going to ask for. First round draft pick is too much because again, we're talking about a subpar receiver. First 3 years, subpar, middle of the pack. Then he just had his breakout year last year. You can't demand something when you, again, up until last year, you were very subpar, middle of the pack.
So I'm going to talk about this. Unless the team can make a Super Bowl run with him, then it'd be worth it. Isn't that just what they did? Deebo Samuel was hurt. Who carried the load in receiving wise? Christian McCaffrey and Brandon Aiyuk. There was no other people to do it.
I got you. Who carried that team offensively?
Christian McCaffrey.
And there's nothing else to be said. Christian McCaffrey was the focal point of the San Francisco 49er offense. And to be honest with you, he was a focal point of that offense, but we cannot also just overlook the importance of that offensive line, Trent Williams and that offensive line, because that offensive line created holes and gave protection and so forth. George Kittle and his talents, Kyle Juszczyk, again, Brandon Aiyuk had a great year. We're not taking that. But again, let's if we're going to be honest, we're going to talk, the X's and O's of football like we do on this platform. The focal point of that 49er offense was run CMC.
Let me ask you something, Nate. How smart would it be, and this is hypotheticals, if a team like the Commanders would trade for him, on his fifth year, so he's on the final year of his rookie contract. How smart would it be for them to trade for him and then re-sign him to a deal, or try to pick him up in free agency if the 49ers aren't willing to bring him back to San Francisco, which is what we saw on that video?
Well, we don't necessarily know what is in the mindset of the 49ers or what their plans are moving forward with Brandon Aiyuk or with their organization. But I do know this. He's under contract. And these contract negotiations and whatnot, you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to, hold out and again, miss opportunities to bond with your team, getting that chemistry and that groove with the offense and with your quarterback and just out there getting better and better. I don't see the Commanders, and if you got to be smart. You got to be smart just due to the fact that, $14 million is a lot of money. And again, what's enticing is that you see all of these receivers getting their new deals and whatnot. So you want your piece of the cake. You want a piece of that cake, nice little chocolate cake, 3-layer, is it the buttercream frosting? You want your share. But the reality of it is that the 49ers, you got to show us more. If I'm not mistaken, Deebo got paid, but Deebo he had a couple of, if I'm not mistaken, his first 2 years, Deebo was a playmaker.
Oh, yeah. Deebo signed a 3-year, $71.5 million contract.
What year was that?
July 2022. So 2022, 2024.
All right.
So isn't he on the last year? This is his last year too. Oh, it runs through the 2025 season is what it says.
All right. Deebo, well, no, let me take that back. Deebo, he didn't have big years. His first 4 years, he only had 1 year in which he had a big year. And that was in 2021 when they went to the Super Bowl. That year he had 1,400 yards, 6 touchdowns, 77 receptions.
And those numbers sound familiar, don't they, Nate?
Yeah, they do. They sound familiar. Um, you know, but yeah, the thing about it with Debo was doing it in all areas, like running the ball and whatnot. It's a tough one. It really it's a tough situation. Because again, Ayuk has more receiving touchdowns than Debo. Debo has more total touchdowns because Debo has 38 total touchdowns.
That's rushing too.
Rushing too, 19 and 19.
But he was Christian McCaffrey before Christian McCaffrey went to 49ers.
So it's a tough one because if you're going to try to re-sign a Brandon Aiyuk, you're going to need Debo Samuels to restructure his contract.
Well, let's look this up. Let's look at this too. So if San Francisco don't want him and can't get a first round pick for him, then what's going to happen? Because he's under contract. Do they just wait out until he hits free agency?
To play out. But if he has another good year, they're going to place the franchise tag on him. Oh, I forgot Debo does have an injury. He's injury prone.
He was injured last year.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, Debo might be in a little trouble too because, again, he's not staying healthy. You can't that's the point. If they don't want him, they'll play hardball because if he has another solid year, they will put the franchise tag on him. Just so if a team wants to, they're not just going to let him walk freely. They're going to try to get some compensation for him and for his talents. So that's the chess match right there, and on the business aspect of the game of football. We look at Russell Wilson's and the Russell Wilsons and gosh, what was the quarterback name from Pittsburgh? For Pittsburgh, the other quarterback.
From Pittsburgh?
No, the other quarterback that came from Chicago.
Oh, Justin Fields.
Justin Fields. Now, both of these teams, they just gave them away for a bag of potato chips, Lay's at that. I love Lay's potato chips.
Mm-hmm.
Get
Diet Coke.
They gave them away just because they wanted to get them off the books. San Fran is going to be smart. They're going to play hardball.
Well, I mean, we talk about contract negotiations. Let me turn this off. We talk about contract negotiations and how these players are going to pan out during the year. And really, with Brandon Aiyuk and a bunch of other players, these players have held out their mandatory minicamps because of these contracts, one being Brandon Aiyuk, like we were talking about earlier. So a lot of people aren't showing up to minicamps. A lot of people are showing up to minicamps, specifically the rookies. We want to take a look at the rookies, and this is something you want to take a look at. So, Nate, I hope you brought your pool floaties.
Let's go.
With the Loch Ness.
Let's swim.
Because when we look at mandatory minicamps, it's really we're really starting the next season of football. If we take a look at it, we're really at the end of the offseason. This is it. We're here. So, Nate, I want to ask you this question because you're about to take it away. This is about to be your segment because we're going to be swimming with you. So that's why you got to get your pool floaties on. Do you have any behind that couch?
No, it's just
Bowser.
Okay,
just Bowser. So, Nate, what's next for these rookies specifically and other people, other young players after mandatory mini camps? And what about the players that never showed up?
All right.
Answer this question for me.
Wow. So this is a loaded question. So I'm going to just really break it down in segments and points. Being a rookie or being a young player, you leave and you're under your own supervision. You're your own training, working out on the field. Try to study as much film as you can. Stay in contact with your position coach and strength coaches and whatnot. Before you left, you should have been asking the questions. What I need to work on and whatnot. What have you seen for me that I need to improve on during OTAs and during the mandatory minicamp and whatnot. So, and then when you get to wherever you're training at, this is the reality of it. You got to mentally prepare yourself because it's about to get real. Or excuse me for what I'm about to say. Shit is about to get real. Training camp is right around the corner, and there is no room for error. This is the iron sharpens iron during this time. You're out there competing. You're competing in a grown man's game, and this is for a job. This is how people take care. I mean, kind of, we've had these discussions. This is how men take care of their families and whatnot. So the margin for error, it's slim to none, especially if you're a guy that's a late round draft pick to an undrafted free agent. Now, if you're a first round draft pick, first 2 rounds or first 3 rounds in some cases, you're expected to go in there and compete and play for playing time. So the expectation is high. The pressure is going to be mounted on you. That means you gotta hone in on your playbook, hone in on things you need to get better at, your fundamentals of the position and so forth. When you go home and when you leave, you don't go back home just to be like, oh man, go back home to see your friends and you have your gear on and like, yeah, I'm on the team and standing up. No, you gotta go as if you know what you're competing. You really are competing for your livelihood, and you're competing. This is your job now, so you got to show up in the best shape. You have to show mentally, physically, emotionally prepared and ready to get better. Now, for the guys that miss camp, a lot of these guys are still training, and a lot of these guys, again, these are people that are expected to contribute, and they've been contributors since the year before. When they come back, you're expecting them to be in the best shape, be ready to hit the ball, hit the ground running, when they come back. And, this is the time of the year where it's exciting because now we went through training, we went through OTAs, we went through off-season workouts, we went through mandatory minicamp. Now we're molding this team. It has to come together. This team has to get better. Now we're going to figure out who's going to be contributors on this team and so forth. Who are going to be the guys that, with the surprise cuts, who's going to be the guys that are surprising us to be depended on, at any moment's notice. This is the exciting moment and exciting time of the year because your team is being molded and put into place. And you get excited because it's a new team. It's not the same group of guys. You may have the same core guys, but it's a new group of guys that's there. Some of these guys are going to help you win games. Some of them, again, are going to become fan favorites and so forth. So this is what the offseason is. It breeds. Again, guys, do not go home and just rest on your morals or your laurels or whatever it is that they say. You get to work because, again, the NFL career is 3 years. I was blessed and fortunate to play 5. You have to take advantage of the opportunity that's presenting itself to you and not allow it to just slip through your fingers.
I do want to say something if you don't mind. I was thinking about it, and you say a lot of these people this is how they provide for their families. This is their job, and I wanna connect something here because before I was trying to find a job this summer, I had a guy come up to me, and he was this old geezer guy. He was trying to tell me all this sort of. He's trying to tell me all these sort of wise stuff, yada, yada, yada. And I wanted a job for experience, not for money. Because I saw whenever I tried to want a job for money, it didn't really work out in the financial way that I thought it would have worked out, in the end. So this time I was not going to make the same mistake. When I sat down and talked to him, he said, look, it don't matter what you go into. If you wanna go into a job that you make more money, whatever. Can you hush, dog? Whatever. Right. So if I look at me taking a job and these guys as well, and I go in, he told me that if you go in your job, you got something on your camera, Nate. If you go in, Polaroid, if you go in your job thinking that you gon' cash a paycheck every time you walk in, that's all you're gonna do. So I'm thinking that a lot of times these guys want to go on the football field and think, hey, I'm only there for a paycheck. I'm not there to provide for my family. I'm only there to make some money. And whenever that happens, I feel that the guys aren't as successful as they could be because all that's on their mind is money. I just feel like that with a lot of players.
You know what? Let's we gotta call a spade a spade. The game of football is a very dangerous game. There's a lot of guys that have dealt with a lot of health issues years after playing the game. Mobility issues, head trauma, CTE. Again, life. You want to be able, when you finish playing, football, you want to have I guess you could say a decent life. And again, being able to walk around and chase your kids and play, chase your grandkids and so forth when that time comes. You want to have a sustainable and livable life. But you want to also be in that same space where you are in a place where you can financially, provide for your family. I'm not saying a lavish lifestyle, but you want to be comfortable. You know what I'm saying? You want to be comfortable and so forth. And so, while you're in it, you have to, get as much out of it as you can. That's really what it is about. A lot of guys are trying to get the most out of it as they can. Now, there are aspects of it where guys are, quote unquote greedy, but you look at the game and what we're playing, where it's a violent collision every second of the game. And on top of that, what these players are being paid compared to what's the money that's being made, is pennies on the dollar. So we have to take into consideration it's a catch-22. It's pros and cons, and it's a long list of pros and it's a long list of cons. But we have to find that happy medium.
I mean, you take players like who took budget cut, money, like Tom Brady to make their team better. That guy didn't play football, I promise you, he didn't go on that football field because he was going to cash a check.
Well,
he went on that football field to win
championships. And you want to know the thing about it is, if we're going to talk about the greatest to ever do it, and MJ's probably going to hate me. Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. The thing with Tom was that the game, and Tom wanted to win championship. That's what that's Tom, the late, great Kobe Bean Bryant, Michael Jordan, those guys are Tiger Woods. Those guys are, when I say winning it turns them crazy because you want to win that bad. And Tom Brady, he never was the highest paid. He didn't care about being the highest paid at his position. Again, all he cared about was winning and having success. Tom Brady made money though, outside of football. The endorsements, the business ventures, again, all of the capital, the financial gain, the materialistic aspect of it, that'll come. But with the names I just mentioned, it was about their craft and being the best that they can be every year and competing against the best. See, they wanted to be the best and they wanted to go against the best to show their greatness.
Well, I'm glad we talk about people that have taken budget cuts, because there's two players in particular with the Los Angeles Chargers that they were able to get budget cuts to keep their team whole during this offseason. And before we talk about that, I want to talk about some really good car insurance. A guy named Jeff Wertepny.
Here's to the grown-ups. Your car is now your office, stage, nursery. Erie Insurance offers products that lots of other companies don't. That's a big deal, and it's a good deal, too. And with Erie, you get your own independent agent, not a giant corporate call center or some online robot. You meet with a real person, like this.
Your local Erie agent is Building Block Insurance Group. Get a quote today at 704-464-4544.
Erie Insurance.
And when you call Jeff Wertepny at 704-464-4544, go ahead and ask him if he's willing to give you a little bit of budget cuts and save you a little bit of money on your car insurance. And I guarantee you the answer will be yes. So go ahead, call Jeff Wertepny on that number that I repeat every single time. Now, I don't even have to remember it anymore. It just kind of comes naturally now. I could do whatever during the commercial and still remember the number, But go ahead, call him, tell him the breakdown sent you, and he'll give you some pretty good car insurance. But as we said before we got into that commercial, a couple people taking budget cuts. Let's get into our last segment of the show, Nate, because I'm ready to get a little bit messy with Nate Nessie. This dog will stop doing this. Okay, now if you saw thumbnail, saw the title, you know we're going to talk about a little bit of AFC West, specifically the Los Angeles Chargers offseason, because now that mandatory minicamps are in full circle, we're really at the beginning of the next NFL season. Consider this the 2024 NFL season because we're here. The offseason is essentially over. There's no more offseason. We're here to the next season. The guys that have been drafted, they're now rookies. So rookies are now playing football. Once that happens, we're in the next season of football. So we talk about people taking cuts. We talk about this Los Angeles Chargers team. I want to talk about their offseason. I want to talk about how they can specifically compete in the AFC West. But we're not talking about the Raiders or Broncos. Let's be fair. We're talking about that Kansas City Chiefs dynasty. How is this Los Angeles Chargers team, who won a couple games last season, I can't remember what the number was, going to compete with a team as good as the Kansas City Chiefs? Now I got a couple notes here I'm going to read off for you. We're going to talk about it, have a little discussion, and at the end, we're going to see just how good, because they got to play the Chiefs twice this year.
Yes,
how good. West. AFC West. So let's talk about obviously the biggest move this offseason for the Los Angeles Chargers, picking up the team up north, as Kenny would say. I'm going to respect Kenny for this. Head coach Jim Harbaugh, who just ended up winning a national championship. Now, we've seen with college football how the power of NIL and transfer portal has influenced the game. And therefore, old head coach, I say old, seasoned head coaches like Jim Harbaugh do not want to coach college anymore. That's just another factor that they have to take into consideration after coaching for years and years and years, that they just don't want to do it anymore. So he goes back to the NFL. Jim Harbaugh has never had a sub 500 season in the NFL. He's always had. He might not have a season, but on average, he hasn't had sub 500. So the Chargers, I think, got a good one. I'm not a big Chargers fan, but I was pleased for them with this deal to acquire Jim Harbaugh. We see that they traded their Keenan Allen away, their number one wide receiver, and then they released Mike Williams, who was going to have a heavy salary cap issue. And so now they are without a veteran wide receiver, which is one of the big, not big moves, but one of the moves that I disagreed with. You don't have a veteran wide receiver now. You have a second year and a rookie, really, as your wide receivers. Your whole wide receiver core is just young receivers who really haven't proven themselves yet. And maybe this is a team that could kind of sneak in and take Brandon Aiyuk. Who knows? Now we see they've signed players like Denzel Perryman, veteran linebacker. They got Gus Edwards. Their backfield is basically a Ravens backfield. They got Gus Edwards. They got J.K. Dobbins. And they got a center, Bradley Bozeman, and tight end, Hayden Hurst. I have all this written down. And they drafted Joe Alt to pair with Rashawn Slater to help out Justin Herbert, to make sure that guy doesn't get injured again, because that's where your money's going, into your quarterback. And then they have, obviously, Ladd McConkey. And I know you wanted to talk about Ladd McConkey and his contract, because when you're a second-round player, and we talked about this before, it's very difficult to kind of have those contract negotiations. It takes the second-round draft picks the longest to decide their contracts, because they don't know if they're going to get paid that first-round money, or they're kind of bad enough to get paid the third-round money. Mm-hmm. You know how it is. So, Nate, let's talk about this offseason. Kind of take it piece by piece. What you liked with the Chargers, what you think they need to do to still compete, because obviously they're not a Chiefs dynasty team yet. They're not a Chiefs kryptonite team yet. So, Nate, let me know what the Chargers, and your expertise, what needs to happen.
The Chargers have to shore up their defense. It's hard for a team to score points if they can't move the ball on the defense. So they got to continue to shore up that defense and make that defense a really good defense. Get healthy. They have to establish some things on the offensive side, protecting Justin Herbert. getting their offensive, plays and a good scheme that utilizes and suits his talents and so forth. And they got to get their playmakers to play. You bring in a Jim Harbaugh, who we seen hit what he did with players like Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick, and whatnot. Again, he a Pro Bowl quarterback himself and whatnot. So his level and his what he knows about the game of football in itself and his hands-on approach and coaching and being able to relate to his players, that's a plus because you're going to need that. I mean, we're talking about a Chiefs dynasty that has won 3 out of the last 4 Super Bowls. Or 3 out of the last 5. We're talking about a team that is just getting better and better every year. And whether we want to admit it or not, I'll admit it, Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. He is the best quarterback in the NFL. And you're talking about a team in the same division where you got to compete against him. And again, compete against him, Andy Reid. Not to mention, again, the Las Vegas Raiders are there. Don't forget the Denver Broncos. They have to get better. I mean, this is a talented division, but the Chargers have to, develop their own identity, how they're going to win games, and they got to win it, again, with a sound defense, a great game plan, and with a mixture of run and pass, and great quarterback play from Justin Herbert. It's time for Justin Herbert to step into that elite category. He's getting paid all this money, so it's time for him to finally showcase that he is in the elite category.
I mean, he's getting paid elite money, if we want to put it that way. And so the other players they have getting paid elite money is Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. And so Joey Bosa went on to say that he's not here for money. He's here to win championships. And so he took a pay cut. They ended up keeping him and Khalil Mack, which was not supposed to happen. Nobody saw the Chargers being able to keep both of them because they're both big cap hit players. But to keep that defense the way it is and then to be able to add to it in the draft, I think was a very good move. Jim Harbaugh has been doing great things in Los Angeles as per the title, Chargers A+ offseason. The only thing I would have to say with it, and I want your thoughts on this, is that there is no veteran wide receiver in that group to lead that team. You have let me pull up the depth chart real quick so I can give you the entire thing. I know Joshua Palmer and Quentin Johnson are both their 2 wide receivers, and now you have Ladd McConkey at 3. So you have 3 guys who have not played 3 full seasons in the NFL yet as your 1, 2, and 3. And you're going to sit here and tell me that this receiving core is going to be it for Los Angeles? I can't have it.
They're going to need they need somebody that's going to be able to lead that room. It's still some players out there that they can get, quality players, but they're going to need a veteran to come in and lead that room and whatnot. You were talking about Brandon Aiyuk fitting in that possibly fitting in that Chargers team in that receiver room as good as he is, and again, no knock, but the reality of it is I don't see nobody giving up the draft capital to attain his services.
And Harbaugh definitely isn't as a new head coach. You don't give away draft capital as a new head coach.
He's trying to establish his own regime. He's trying to build a team that can compete with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. You need as many draft picks as you can.
Exactly, because I mean, you gotta have good players for no money. You can't be paying all these good players a lot of money, and that's the only way you're going to beat them. Because we thought that when the Chiefs, Tyreek Hill left the Chiefs, it was over. But we were mistaken. They have won 2 back-to-back Super Bowls without the Cheetah, and we need somebody to compete with them. Because right now, the only person we've seen successfully compete with them is Joe Burrow. And that Chargers team is not looking anywhere near that Bengals team.
No.
But what what could the Chargers possibly do? And I'm trying to think of people that it could happen
They
to
have to
help
shore up
them.
their defense. They have to shore up their defense has to be the thing that's going to get them going. Offense wins games, defense wins championships. Your defense you have to have an elite defense. You have two very good pass rushers in Khalil Mack and is it Joey? That's Joey. Then you have you have the best safety in the game of football in Derwin James. You have to defensively be able to shut teams down and get a good pass rush, get good pressure on the quarterback, collapse the pocket. You know what? And you got to play solid, strong defense. That's how they're going to win. And that AFC West, Kansas City is sitting up here. Everybody else is down here. In order for them to move up, their defense has to rise to the occasion.
I mean, you're right. You're right. When you say offense wins games, defense wins championships, you are exactly right. Because we take a look at the Dallas Cowboys. That offense took them through the entire regular season. And then when it mattered most in the playoffs, the defense could not keep up. The defense didn't show up.
If you want to build a championship team, and again, we've always known Kansas City to be a team offensively that put up points. Kansas City, to be honest with you, during the season, showed their defense was amazing. During the playoff run, their defense was amazing. They were able to play single high, man-free defense and get pressure the quarterback and trust that their DBs are going to be able to lock up on the opposing team's offensive receivers. Listen, if Los Angeles wants to be able to be a team that make that jump and that leap and compete with the likes of Kansas City, they have to get better on defense. They have to find their defensive identity, establish that early, and they got to establish the team that they're going to be. Are they going to be a team that allows, that doesn't bring the fight, that allows the opposing team to hit them in the mouth? Or are they going to be the team that's going to be the bully? And they're going to be the team that are going to dictate the flow of the game and so forth.
I feel like the Chargers are kind of the nerd right now before the glow up. I mean, you can't I cannot see, especially watching Quentin Johnson last year, I cannot see this wide receiver room being good for the Chargers. Something has to happen in this wide receiver room for them to be able to compete. In my mind, that's the only – you say defense, and I agree with you, of course. I agree with you. The defense, once the playoff comes around, that's going to be the people that matter the most. But you have to have people to catch the ball. Justin Herbert's no Patrick Mahomes. He can't have the 29th best receiving core in the league and still win the Super Bowl. That's not going to happen. That only happens with one player in the league, and his name's Patrick Mahomes. Something has to happen with this receiver core. They have to make a move. I don't know how they're going to do it because I don't know what they're capped at. I don't know the numbers. I have to look at it. But there has to be a move made in that receiving core because you're not going to have all these receivers who have not played 3 full seasons as your 1, 2, and 3. You got to have some veteran leadership in that receiving core. You have to have somebody that knows the field. And those 3 players aren't it for LA. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen throughout the year because I feel that if there's a player that's good wide receiver wise and he doesn't really live up to his great expectations throughout the season, Jim Harbaugh might look at that and be like, okay, well, I can get him for cheap. I might be able to do something with him and my team. And we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
That's my Chihuahua. They're outside now.
No, wait. Hold on, wait. What did Dad say? Dad said Chris Jones to
T. I don't know. To a T, I don't really know what he was talking about. But he's talking about when you were talking about that defense and how they were able to play single high and still get pressure to the quarterbacks. He's talking about that Chris Jones was a lot of the reason that happened. And I feel like this is how Andy Reid does. And you want to talk about he talked about Harbaugh trusting his players. I feel like that's the case with Andy Reid. When all Andy Reid has to do is get that guy in that position group, Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, Chris Jones at defensive tackle. It doesn't matter who's around them. They're going to be like Michael Jordan, make everybody better around them, and that's how the Kansas City Chiefs ball out. Patrick Mahomes could have the LA Chargers wide receiver room and still make the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Chris Jones could have all rookie D tackles around his defense and still be able to play single high and then make the Super Bowl and still have pressure. Because Andy Reid trusts his players that he puts the money in that much that he's going to let them influence the offense and the defense, and all they got to do is listen to Andy Reid. So when you want to talk about people having coaches having trust in players, Andy Reid's that guy. He said Chris Jones to LA. I don't know if he's talking about hypothetically what would happen, but LA wouldn't have the money. So, I mean, you can't bring Chris Jones to LA. You wouldn't have the money. Nate, is there anything you'd like to say about it?
You know what? This is the most exciting time of the year. I mean, it's so many. I mean, we're getting excited because football is getting ready to come back. We're getting excited for these teams and again, the draft and the acquisition of free agents and so forth and molding the team. Yeah. LA does need it. No, you are completely right. LA needs a Chris Jones type of player, impact player, but they also need somebody who Chris Jones impact with leadership abilities, with somebody that can really lead these troops.
I'm thinking they get like a DeMarcus Ware. You know, I mean, although Khalil Mack kind of is that DeMarcus Ware, he should be, honestly. I just feel like he isn't. I don't know if he's been there long enough to have that impact, even though he should. I'm not saying that that's the case. He should have that impact, you know. But I don't know if he does, especially with the new coach.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to establish that veteran leadership, which is why if you get a new guy in there with the new regime, I feel like the effect is that much more because now he's able to come in and do whatever he wants, as opposed to him being there for a while with the old regime. He's not going to have that influence, and I feel like he should, but it's just not the case over there. There's something missing with the offense and the defense that I almost think Jim Harbaugh's got it. I mean, I think he's got something in his head right now where he's like, okay, this is what's going to happen before the season or throughout the season, and I'm going to make sure we can compete with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Mm-hmm. That's the main important thing when you're in that division. In the AFC, ooh, you know what? Robbie is on to something. They do need a Thomas Davis type of guy. TD, I played with TD. TD's a leader. They need somebody that's going to be able to lead. But in the AFC, back to what I was saying, excuse me. In the AFC, you need Kansas City is here. Everybody is playing catch up. And if you guys want to beat Kansas City, you have to beat Kansas City from a different standpoint. You got to be able to slow down. You're not going to be able to shut down Patrick Mahomes, but you have to be able to slow that offense down. Because if it's a shootout, I'm going to roll with Kansas City every time.
You got to.
If it's a shootout, if you try to make this a close, you got to beat Kansas City at a close game.
I mean, you're right. The only way to beat Kansas City is defensively. Because if you leave it up to an offensive game, we've seen it with the Buffalo Bills 100 times. What can happen when you leave it up to an offensive game? And in 13 seconds, guess what happened, Nate? The Kansas City Chiefs scored with the freaking Buffalo Bills playing a prevent defense.
It was a sideline. It wasn't prevent.
Whatever he was playing, they were playing.
What
were they playing?
Defense. It's a sideline defense. Therefore, they try to keep everybody inside because remember, Kansas City didn't have no timeouts left.
And then they just ran up the middle.
No, they had maybe one timeout left, and again, that's what you try to do. So yeah.
But after we got a little messy, let me set the tone so we can we can channel our little inner Ricky Williams. Where is it? There we go. Because Nate, we're going to finish it off right. And so today, let me set up new week, new chapter. This is going to be you. So you take it away.
All right, what's up? Let's go. Let's get it. This is the most exciting time of our podcast. You know, I hope everybody doesn't get tired of when we say this. You know, me being a follower and a man of my faith. There's no greater time than to spend time with God, to acknowledge His presence, to acknowledge His grace and favor over our lives, and knowing that we're undeserving of any of the grace, any of the blessings, any of God's love and mercy, but that He just so graciously, you know, bestows it upon us. You know, I am just always so full of gratitude and just thankfulness and humility in my heart, because again, this is the most promising time. I love spending time with God. You don't have to spend time with God once a day. I spend time with God numerous times throughout the day and talk to Him numerous times throughout the day. But in this moment, when we have time to just slow it down, we talked about football. We talked about, you know, again, other things that are going on in life and sports and so forth. This is what matters most is again, our everyday struggles, our everyday battles. And, you know, we all going through something in some way, shape, or form. Some things may be similar, some things may be completely and totally opposite and different. But again, as children of God, you know, we are so blessed. And I think it's very important, you know, again, that we connect with God on a level that, again, that expresses the most sincere gratitude and thankfulness in our hearts. So I'm sorry for that whole spiel. Let's go ahead and get into the scripture for the day. Lamentations, again, my study. This is actually from my study a couple of days ago, to be honest with you. The Lord is good to those whose hope is in Him, to the ones who seek Him. It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. And, you know, what I got from that is, you know, every day, you know, I'm searching for God. You know, I want, you know, to please Him. I want to spend time with Him. I want Him to speak to my mind, body, heart, and soul. I want to speak to my spirit. I want to mold me and push me into be the best that I can be in life and today, you know, and to, again, be able to pray and spend time with Him intimately and just to talk to Him about, you know, what's going on, even though He knows what's going on. I think it's very, very, very important. It's a prize. And again, you know, it's more valuable than any materialistic thing that we can think of. It's more important than it's so important, to again establish that firm foundation, to establish that firm foundation, to allow God to be the anchor in our lives. Because, you know, storms come and life happens. Life happens at any moment. And just to know that, you know, a life may happen, but we won't be moved because God is our strong foundation. God can't be moved. And that no matter what's going on, we have a God who sees us through things and again, wants us to be the best that we can be and pushes us. I think that's very, very, very important. Very important for us to acknowledge daily and just to be thankful for the journey, every journey that we're on. So, Connor, close us out. Connor, will you close us out?
Yes. Close us out. Because
Mom, Dad, I hope y'all can hear me. Connor doesn't like praying. I be wanting Connor to pray.
You know, when I was in school, I really wasn't the person that always prayed.
I be wanting Connor to pray.
The one who seeks Him, huh, Nate?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me see what I can do.
You gonna do it. Let's go.
You ready, Nate?
I'm ready.
All right. Dear Lord, I want to thank You for letting us come here today, as always, to come and talk a little bit about sports, but most importantly, at the end of the show, we talk a little bit about You, because I like to say we like to channel our inner Ricky Williams, but it really means we want to channel our inner You, Lord, because we're the ones who are trying to seek You today. We're the ones who are trying to find that salvation, trying to find that goodness in You, Lord, so that we can spend the rest of our lives with You, because that's the only way that I see and that a lot of people like me see it fit, because I don't want to live in a world where at the end of my life I got to live it separate from You. Because what's the point in living every single day if there's not something to live for? If we were to go in every single day and not live for you, what's the point in living? And so I thank you for making our lives that much more significant, that much more special, because if it wasn't for you, there would be no point in us living here on earth, Lord. I thank you for letting us come on here every week, letting us talk about you, giving us this opportunity, because without you and without the people here, this wouldn't be possible. So, Lord, watch us over this next week. Watch over the players, the people, all in sports media. Just make sure that you show their light, and maybe if football or media isn't for them, you show them what is. Show them the light, Lord. Lead them, because a lot of them are seeking you, Lord. So for the ones that seek, and maybe for the ones that don't, show them, Lord, what your plan is for them. And until then, give them hope. And we will continue to have faith in you. And in your Son's perfect, holy, and precious name we pray. Amen. I love channeling my inner Ricky Williams. I don't know if Ricky Williams is a super godly guy, but I know he's real into yoga and stuff.
Yeah, he's really, really a free spirit and a good man.
But I mean, I wish we could have him on the show. Do you have his number, Nate?
I can get it.
Can we get can we get Ricky Williams to get on the show and do the last segment with us? That would be so amazing. But Nate, let me turn the music off. Okay, perfect. Is there anything you'd like to say before we send it off today? No.
Nah. Beautiful show. Beautiful prayer.
Thank you. I feel real good after we end the show, especially when you make me pray. I feel real good after it.
Yeah.
Especially when you make me pray. I feel good when you pray too. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that.
You know what? I hope mom and dad get on you now.
Well, I should have prayed for my mom for safe travels. She just got herself a new car, and I'm very jealous of it. You know, I drive an older, there she is right there. I drive an older 4Runner, right, that I've kind of put a lot of money into and kind of turned it into how I want it. And she just bought herself like a nice blacked out, it's called Nightshade. Everything's blacked out. Like a almost, not super brand new, like a newer. It's like a 2018 model. And I am so jealous. Her car is so nice. There's Bruce. Let's go. Thanks, Bruce. Well, there's nothing Nate can say because he's having a little bit of.
You okay?
You know, after that little bit of inner Ricky Williams, he's just a little speechless. Ricky Williams don't talk much. He's a real quiet guy. I remember seeing him on Celebrity Big Brother. He was real quiet. He didn't really do much. But until next week, until we channel our inner Ricky Williams again, we'll see you next Tuesday. We're gonna keep talking about sports. We're gonna keep talking about God. And so if you're into both those things, like I am, those are some of my passions. Y'all come on, listen to us. Bruce loves Ricky Williams, and we love you, Bruce. So we love y'all too. Keep watching us every Tuesday. We appreciate it. Without a little bit of love from, my family and a couple other people watching, this wouldn't be possible, and it would kind of discourage us from wanting to do this every Tuesday. So keep watching us. Keep coming back, because we like to talk about sports. We like to talk about God. Until next Tuesday, the man to my right is the man, the myth, the legend, the 5-year NFL vet. His name's Nate Ness, but I like to call him Nate Nessie. And my dad said Ricky had a tongue ring when it wasn't cool. But anyways, neither of us have tongue rings. I'm your co-host, Connor Davis. This is the Breakdown X's and O's. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.